What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 33rd episode of the Control Freak Podcast. I am your host, Alex Blackard, or at LessAlex on Twitch and Twitter. Make sure to go follow me there. This is the only Magic the Gathering podcast devoted to all things Control in Pioneer, Modern, and Standard. Today, we have a very special podcast episode. We are going to be taking a look at Theros Beyond Death. I am joined by my teammate and friend, Adam Cohen. Adam, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm really excited for this set. It's so good.
It's pretty sick. I am really excited, too, because they jammed all the awesomeness that was the original 3 sets. Because, you know, they had some bad sets. Theros was great, and then the next 2 kind of... They got all the awesome lore and all the awesomeness from those sets and kind of just jammed it into one set.
Oh, yeah.
I'm extremely excited. As always, the podcast is sponsored by SolitaryPro. Of course, all their information will be in the show notes below. Make sure to check them out. And, of course, the awesome members of my Patreon over at patreon.com/LessAlex. If you enjoy what I do here and the kind of content that I make on the podcast and on Twitch and YouTube, make sure to check that out and consider becoming a patron. We do have a new patron. Shout out to Aaron Gilly for becoming the newest patron. Thank you. Appreciate the support. And at the highest tier, you get 1 free donation deck whenever you become a patron, and 1 upon request each month. So a new perk over there on Patreon. So go check that out. And, of course, if you dig the content, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review. It goes an extremely long way with helping the metrics and how everything gets discovered. 5-star review over there. Don't want any 2-star or 1-stars. Just DM me on Twitter and tell me that my content sucks. Awesome. Let's get into it. Everybody knows on this podcast I don't like to waste time. We just hop right in. So, yeah, here it is, the set review. First off, we're going to start at, Heliod.
With the gods.
The gods.
And we'll start with the best one.
Off the rip. And, yeah, probably the most anticipated card. Probably the card that's going to change the face of Pioneer. And maybe other formats, too. But, yeah. Heliod Sun Crown, you want to read off what this card does, and then we can discuss it?
Sure. So as the most unplayable color, white gets Heliod Sun Crown, which is 2 and a white for an indestructible legendary enchantment creature. You know the deal with the Theros gods. As long as your devotion to that color is less than 5, Heliod is not a creature.
Yep.
Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. And then for 1 white, another target creature gets lifelink until end of turn. Heliod starts as a 5/5. And so the combo here is that you can put it on Walking Ballista.
Oh, yeah.
Walking Ballista is a XX artifact creature construct.
Yep.
He comes in with X counters on him, X 1/1 counters. You can remove a counter to shoot a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
So with Heliod in play, your Walking Ballista gets a counter every time it deals damage to your opponent. So you tick down, it ticks back up, and that's infinite damage.
Yep.
And so it's a turn 3 Heliod, turn 4 Ballista, and then you kill them.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, so this is the Control Freak podcast. Obviously, that card, Walking Ballista, is already just insane against us, right? Like, that card, traditionally, especially in Modern, like, the Tron decks will just play it super late in the game and then make like a 7/7 and then just kill you, right? And and especially in Pioneer, it's very hard to deal with as well. That card is just, in my mind, it's abysmal to play against. I am so happy. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for printing a card that will get it banned in Pioneer for sure. I would be very surprised if this turn 3 combo doesn't get one of these 2 banned in Pioneer.
And so actually one of the interesting things you can do there, you can kind of play with those mana costs. So you have like Radiant Fountain, which is a land. When it enters, you gain 2 life.
Gain 2 life, yep.
So if you wanted to do the curve that way, you could cut the the line down an extra turn by playing the Ballista, then Heliod, then playing the Radiant Fountain.
Yeah.
So that way Ballista just grows anyway. Ballista is really, really good. No matter what, you're never trading with it favorably. And the fact that it now combos with an indestructible 3-drop makes it even harder for Control to deal with.
Oh, yeah. I mean, indestructible is obviously insane, especially in a format where our removal spells, our spot removal spells, our instant speed removal spells are already very, very taxed and very, very scarce.
In combat.
Yeah.
And also combat required.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's very true, too. Especially at 3 on turn 3. Like, it's pretty much impossible. But yeah, Heliod Suncrown definitely stole the previews show, so to speak. And this card is just everything that a combo player wants in life for a format that really only has one true combo deck. The Storm, quote-unquote Storm deck with Lotus Field. That deck is very sweet. I've played it a couple times. And yeah, it's that deck is good, but I think this deck is going to be more explosive for sure.
They actually created an answer to that deck finally in this set, but we're going to talk about that one later.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, of course, we got to talk about Fassa, Deep Dwelling. I'll read this one off. So for 3 and a blue, you get the legendary enchantment Creature God, Mythic. It is a 6/5. It is indestructible, and of course, it does have the clause that if you are not devoted to blue, if your devotion isn't 5 or more, it isn't a creature. And then at the beginning of your instep, exile up to one other target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under your control. And then for 3 and a blue, you can tap another target permanent. Whew. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's an indestructible Soul Herder.
Yeah.
That's already a 6/5.
Which, oh my god, Soul Herder, that card is so very annoying. I feel like
it was really good. Like, no one anticipated that being a playable card outside of a limited format in Horizons. And then it was Matt Ness that built that deck.
Yeah, and then Gabe Nassif kind of got on it and was streaming it a bunch in Modern. And I mean, I could see this going in that deck. Indestructible Soul Herder that you just get to do every turn. You don't have to waste any more mana on it. Pretty insane. And it's a big ol' 6/5. Fassa got stronger since the last time we saw her. So
she's down a Bident, but
she's down a Bident, but man, yeah. I don't know if this is as good as the original Fassa, but in terms of she is what she is, this card is what it is. I think this card definitely can slot into that deck potentially, and any deck that plays Oko in Modern is probably good enough.
Also great when they're enchantments. I don't think Oko is able to turn them into 3/3s.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. If it's not a creature, it cannot be elked. So, cool. So yeah, Fassa, Deep Dwelling, I definitely think will make an impact in Modern. So moving on, we have the Red God. We aren't gonna talk about all of them. You can definitely go out and check out every single card. You know, the internet is there. But we're gonna talk about the ones that we think will at least have a chance to see play in Pioneer and Modern, and a little bit in Standard if they're blue or white.
I think Erebos might end up seeing play in the mono black aggro list in maybe the Rankle spot, just because you have a lot of recursive threats like Scrap Heap and what's the 2/1 Bone something. 2/1 comes back from the graveyard to your hand.
Oh, Gravecrawler? No, not Gravecrawler. But yeah, it's the Gravecrawler-ish card, yeah.
Gutter Bones,
yeah.
So like that deck
Get
has
your
a lot
head
of
out of the gutter, man.
And so that may be worth slotting in there in your top end. I'm not sold on it, but yeah, Nylea is also just kind of it does a thing. It's not.
I mean, they all do things, right? And they're all indestructible, potentially very, very powerful cards. But yeah, we just
these
don't
are the
have
flashy ones.
We don't have the time to put in on all of these cards. So next up, we're gonna talk about Purphoros Bronze Blooded. 4 and a red for, of course, legendary enchantment creature, god, mythic, and it's a 7/6. So beefy boy. And he looks, I love the art on this card. It's super dope.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, yeah, get to the chop. Anyway, he's indestructible as long as your devotion to red is less than 5. Perforos isn't a creature. Other creatures you control have haste. That's absolutely terrifying as a control player. And then for 2 and a red, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the end of the turn. Oh my god.
I love Sneak Attack.
Sneak Attack? I played Sneak and Show in Legacy.
I also played Sneak and Show in Legacy for like 5 years.
This card is hot, and I don't just mean that because it's red.
It has a few like extra riders on it, right? So we're paying 3 mana to activate it.
Yeah. Which is a thing. Like, that is a cost, but...
Right, instead of paying 1.
Right.
And we have to put a red creature in or an artifact creature in. But that still opens up lines to have really meaningful, powerful plays. He's also the only god that can, by himself, turn himself from an enchantment into an enchantment creature on your opponent's turn. So being able to make a surprise blocker when your opponent attacks in, get some favorable traits is not insignificant. You can use the Red Gear Hulk, for example, as a creature you can sneak in.
Oh my god!
Any of the Gear Hulks actually, but the red one especially, because if you're playing a bunch of like beefy, chunky, red mid-rangey threats, Gear Hulk naturally can be a more threatening piece that also refuels.
Absolutely.
So, like, do you want me to flip 2 5/6 drops off the top of my deck and you'll take 11? Or do you want me to draw 3 cards and refuel my Perforos?
Yeah, he's definitely pretty terrifying as a control player, but as like, because I got some combo in me. As a combo player, it's very intriguing to see if this is the real deal or if that 3 is just, it might end up being too expensive, right? Like, it could be, but my money, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, would be it's probably good enough for Pioneer for sure. And I doubt I not Legacy. I doubt Modern, but and it's interesting to see if we get any really insane red cards in Standard too. If we get any big chonky boys in Standard, this could be something in Standard for sure. Yeah. So that is Perforos Bronze-Blooded. So moving on, we have, and this is one out of the gate a lot of people were not really hyped about, but then as people kind of started thinking about it, I thought that it's sweet. And I love Espeth as a character. It is Espeth, Sun's Nemesis. Do you want to read this one off?
I would love to.
Yeah.
So Espeth costs 2 white, Legendary Planeswalker Espeth.
Yeah.
Comes in on 5 loyalty, only has minuses. -1 up to 2 target creatures you control, get +2/+1 until the end of turn. -2, get 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens.
Oh, yeah.
-3, gain 5 life. And the important part is escape for 4 white. So escape, and then exile 4 other cards.
Which isn't as much as a lot of the other ones are. So
Right. So escape is a mechanic that lets you cast the card from your graveyard by paying the escape cost. The reason why Espeth is so strong is that it is inevitability.
Yeah.
You're able to generate value off of it. Your opponent is forced to spend resources to deal with it.
Yep.
And it never goes away. If your opponent counters your Espeth and then you cast it from your graveyard, they're then forced to deal with it again.
They gotta counter it again. Yeah.
Right. If not, you are putting 2 to 4 tokens and either attacking with them for a substantial amount of damage, blocking with them to forward your other threats, or you're stabilizing by gaining a bunch of life.
Yeah.
So no matter what way you cut it, Espeth is gaining you value, and it's a repeated threat your opponents need to continually deal with unless they exile it.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I mean, so a lot of folks were like, what's the card that we can play in Pioneer that is the equivalent to timely reinforcements? And I really never had a good answer for them. This is Pioneer's version of timely reinforcements. Now, you don't get it all at once, obviously, but it does give you the freedom to kind of, okay, do I need the blockers here or do I need the life here? Do I want to go in for the kill? I could just use her first ability. And then, like you said, when I saw it, I was like, it's insane. It's insane. The inevitability part is what makes it, is what really sets it apart. Is because as long as you can not get it syncopated, this card will win you the game.
Yes.
100%. This could be take out your Hero of Dominarias, take out all of your win conditions. If you were playing 3 of these, or maybe even 4, I don't think you'd go 4, but maybe 4, and that was your only win condition, this will eventually win you the game. You just have to protect your graveyard and counter the cards that hit your graveyard.
And unlike other legendary permanents where drawing multiples is kind of a bad thing, you don't feel that same way with Elspeth because she only ticks down.
Yeah.
You can essentially activate the one you have, play the other one, and then activate again. And then later you can escape exiling one of them to your second one to cast that one.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Against an aggressive matchup, you can just play it on 4, gain 5 life. Your opponent then has to devote resources to kill it, so you're gaining more life that way, or you're just making blockers.
Absolutely.
Like there's so many things that this card does that just stops other decks flat.
Oh yeah, I think this card is definitely going to be a player in Pioneer. Definitely in Standard. If there is a blue-white control deck in Standard, which there already is, basically. I mean, it's not like the best blue-white control deck we've seen in Standard, but it is definitely playable. So I definitely think this helps bolster that for sure.
Yeah.
So
moving on to our next one.
Yeah,
real
go
quick.
for it.
I don't think we actually said we were going to talk about Ashok's Erasure, but we should probably.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are going to yell at us.
Right? This is the Control Freak podcast, and you didn't talk about the main counterspell. And go for it.
I'll be honest, I don't think this card's good.
I really don't either. I saw it in Loading Ready Runs pre-release. Krim played it, and it was insane. But obviously, that's a pre-release and not constructed. But
I think the idea of having something like Gideons Intervention is good. I think this card might be playable in Standard. But you're spending 4 mana as a counterspell. It's very good against some kind of like combo deck where I'm going to eat your blanking on the name of it, your Scape Shift.
Yeah.
And it is a counterspell that can't be Veil Summered. I believe it can't be Veil. Yeah, it can't be Veil Summered. Having them have the possibility of getting it back later.
Awkward. Yeah, very awkward.
But usually it's a road bump, which I think at 4 mana is a little too much.
Yeah.
Cards like Mindbreak Trap, like Summary Dismissal, all see some play, but I think that 4 mana counterspells are not where you want to be.
I agree. 4 mana spells, and I think Summary Dismissal in the correct meta is good enough in Pioneer, just because the matchup is so bad against that mono green ramp deck. I think, but I mean that card does so much. That card just does everything. Ashiok's Erasure might be fine in Standard. I don't think it sees a place in Pioneer, and definitely not in Modern. But moving on to this big beefy Ox, we have Ox of Agonis?
I think so.
I don't know. So it is 3 double red for a creature Ox Mythic 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards, and then it escapes for red, and exile 8 other cards. Peasy, the Pyromancer, Season Peasy, CZ Peasy called, and they're homies, and this card reminds me a lot of that card. I think this card has a bright future ahead of it.
So I would actually say this is a lot closer to like Bedlam Reveler, right?
Or Bedlam, yeah.
But the idea of you paying 2 mana from the graveyard to get value, get a creature back, and it draws you cards is really, really strong. The escape cost being cheaper means that something like Dredge might want this. It is another way of enabling your when I blank on it, Prized Amalgam. It casts, so that triggers Vengevines. and it discard in your hand to get dredgers. The discard before the draw is even better for a dredge style deck, so you can trigger your Stinkweed and just keep digging further and further. There's a lot to this card. I think that some kind of Phoenix shell would want it. I think some kind of Dredge shell would want it.
Yeah.
I expect Phoenix to play this in Pioneer. I expect Dredge to play this in Modern.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it the fact that its escape cost is only red is just like insane. Definitely keep your eyes on it. It's a mythic for a reason. Usually that's a pretty good sign that even at first look, like Brazen Bar was a classic example. It's mythic. Everybody was like, why the hell is this card mythic? This doesn't make sense. It doesn't do it. Like, turns out it was like the best blue card in the whole set. So definitely one to keep your eye on if you're looking.
Like, you know how good Catharic Reunion is, right? Like in the Dredge shell. This is a Catharic Reunion you can cast from your graveyard.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. So moving on to the interventions, we got a couple that we wanted, several actually, that we want to talk about. So the first one, the white one, Leahs Intervention, X, white instant for a rare. So you get to choose one, destroy X target artifacts or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. Why it didn't do triple like all the other ones, I mean, I guess, No,
the other ones are double.
Is it?
Yeah, the entire cycle is do one thing for X.
Oh,
or
okay.
do it
I'm
twice.
thinking of the other cycle that white just didn't get. Man, they really hate white these days. Anyways.
But this is one of the most playable ones.
Yeah, no, this one's very good. Destroying a bunch of artifacts is obviously excellent. And in a pinch, if you have to gain life, I guess that's good too. But the art is sweet. I really dig the art in the set in general. They've really been killing it with the art. Like, say what you want about Eldraine. I know it broke Magic and ruined 2019, but the art was beautiful.
So this is basically on rate for multiple targeted like enchantment artifact removal.
Yeah.
The par is like Return to Dust, which is an exile, but it is a conditional hit 2 things. This being able to hit up to or 2 plus whatever. Is really good. Having it be a life gain spell basically means that you can free up sideboard slots that are devoted toward the aggro and burn matchups. So you're able to trim down on your, like, I don't even know. We're playing like Disenchant currently.
Yeah. Definitely better than Disenchant.
Right. You're able to cut into your Disenchant package, and you're like, I need to stop Chalice and Stoneblade, and also I have 5 more slots devoted for my burn aggro matchup. Being able to consolidate those cards means that you have more slots for other matchups. I think that this card does a really good job at a decent rate.
Yep.
That it's worth looking at.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Just the disenchant part is like already, I think, worth it, and I mean the life gain is like fine. Obviously, life gain's never been too crazy, but I definitely think this card is going to see some play for sure. So
like, it's not sexy.
Yeah, no. This, I mean, white is
fun.
rarely the sexy color in Magic. That's for sure. It's just kind of always like, hey guys, I'm here. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm pathing your dudes. Like, so moving on, we have the blue one. Of course, we got to talk about the blue one. Fascist Intervention. And I think this card's actually pretty good. So
I was pretty down on it the first time I saw it, and I've come around to it. I think it's pretty good.
It's like on rate for what the draw part should be, and then like the counter's fine. So Fascist Intervention, X blue, instant rare. Choose one. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then we have counter target spell unless its controller pays X. So kind of like a Syncopate or Logic Knot kind of effect there. Obviously for 1 blue extra. But with these modal spells, they're always going to be a little bit more expensive. You kind of expect that to have the modal effect. I think this card's great, especially for standard. This is exactly what you want in a 4-mana instant speed draw 2. Like, that's kind of the going rate nowadays for that kind of effect. And the counters, the fact that it can counterspell too is just like, I think this card's, the more I think about it, I think this card is very good in standard.
I think it's strong. My issue with it at first, I was looking at it through the lens of like Supreme Will and then
Yeah.
Pull from Tomorrow. Like I was looking at it as either
Sure.
a modal spell or your draw X spell. But if you're comparing it to Hieroglyphic Illumination, if you're comparing it to Glimmer
Glimmer of
of
Genius.
Genius,
Yeah.
it is on rate. It is a good effect, and have it be a counterspell on a pinch is still perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And it gets stronger as the game moves on, whereas those conditional counters are typically dead.
I think you potentially play one of these in Pioneer too. Like potentially just as like that random counterspell. Like if you have a 60th card and you're undecided, I think this would be fine. It's obviously not blowing the doors. It's definitely not Dig Through Time. I definitely don't think you would replace Dig Through Time with this card. But
I think over an Absorb, a 3-mana counterspell is probably still fine.
yeah. I mean, if you want to, I think you definitely can, because I like thinking about the F&M player too. If something, if a certain card is out of your budget or whatever, this is fine. I think this would be good. You could definitely take down a Pioneer F&M with one or two of these in your list.
Yeah.
All right, so that is Thassa's Intervention. Let's move on to the next one if you want to talk about it.
I don't think Erebos Intervention's like especially like interesting. The second effect is probably better than you would typically think, just because of the escape mechanic. Being able to answer graveyards is good. Having to be a -X spell at a decent rate at instant speed's also fine. I don't really want to spend 5-ish mana to kill a decent sized creature, but it does the job. The red one's bad.
Yeah, the red one. Why, man, what is with them making the red? Anyways, like the ones from Modern Horizons, the Force is like, oh, okay, this is weird. But Leahs Intervention, if you want to talk about that one,
I would love to talk about this one. I don't. So, I'm not the kind of person that's like, hey, you know what? Green's getting way too much love. Like, I get that like the average green card has been pretty solid these last couple sets, but like they printed an above rate multi-tutor card.
Yeah.
And put it at rare, not even mythic. So Nylea's Intervention is X green for a sorcery. Choose one. Search your library for up to X lands. Reveal them. Put them in your hand. Specifically, that does not say basic. That just says land. And then the other half is deal twice X to each creature with flying. And so there are a lot of really interesting lands. Off the top of my head, I can think of Dark Depths and Thespian Stage. For more casual 100-card formats, I can think of Wasteland, Strip Mine, Dark Depths, Thespian Stage.
Yeah, this has got to be a staple in Commander, right? Like,
oh yeah, like I get that I'm supposed to be the blue control player, but I have a foiled out Borkbury Most Enraged Lands EDH deck.
Nice.
That is completely based around the Lands Legacy deck. This is going in. This is really, really going in. I have not felt this good about a card for that deck since Renin 6.
Oh, nice. Been a minute.
And before that, it was years. So like, this is Renin 6 level of why is this card printed?
Yeah. No, I definitely think this is going in Commander decks. No, I mean, it's just good. The fact that it says any land is like actually insane. I definitely think that our green mage friends are going to get a lot of play out of this card, and I mean, I don't have much other to say about it, except for why. Why did you not make this basic land or forest or something?
Like this is not okay.
So moving on down the line, we actually have one that we didn't talk about. We were going to talk about, but Idyllic Tutor's back. That's really sweet. So for 2 and a white, sorcery, rare, search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. I mean, this card, I definitely think it needed a reprint. It was climbing
like
up towards the
right?
$25-$30 mark. So shout out to Wizards on getting cards into print that probably won't affect the meta too much, but that are starting to climb up there. You know, they don't recognize the secondary market at all or anything. But
Yeah.
so that's a cool reprint, I think. And then here's the card that you and I were just like, what? Like, this card is sweet. Fassa's Oracle. You were super hyped. I'm gonna let you talk about it.
They made a 2-mana Lab Maniac that's harder to deal with. Just after printing a 4-mana Lab Maniac that's harder to deal with.
Right.
So Thassa's Oracle is this really cool mix of I can play this at any time and also win with it.
Right.
So Omen Speaker was a card that let you. It was a 1/3 for 2 mana. It came in, you scryed 2. Thassa's Oracle is a 1 mana 1/3, and it scries at least 2, maybe more.
Yeah.
But also, it's not technically scry, so I'll just read the card.
Yeah. Go for it.
When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom in a random order. If X is greater or equal to the number of cards in your deck, you win. So you get to...
Hot.
Right. There are a number of different ways of removing the cards in your deck so that when you look at the top of your deck and there's somewhere between 0 to 2 cards in there, you can win the game. Off the top of my head, you have the Ad Naus combo deck, where one of their weak points was playing Lab Maniac and then putting that draw spell on the stack, and your opponent like trying to kill it.
Yeah.
You abrupt decay their Lab Maniac, and then they're just kind of sad sometimes.
And then they die.
Right. They're in like EDH. There's Demonic Consultation, which exiles your entire deck if you wanted to.
Yep. Choose a card. Oh, I'll pick Black Lotus. Okay, I win.
Because of other cards that were put in the set that we will also talk about, there is a turn 2, turn 3 kill with Underworld Breach, where you can self-mill your entire deck and then cast Thassa's Oracle from your graveyard.
Just casual, right? It's a casual, fun card, right? The art is beautiful, by the way. I just want to point that out. It's obviously the background of the show today, if you're watching on YouTube.
It's also a Merfolk and a Wizard, which are 2 somewhat relevant types here.
Yeah, super relevant.
I am expecting this card to see a lot of play and make people really unhappy in the very near future.
Just people raging over this card. I love the art in the set's so sick. But yeah, Thassa's Oracle, combo piece. Also just like a fine card in general. Like, it's fine. It's gonna do stuff and it's gonna do things. But yeah, Thassa's Oracle, probably the sweetest card for combo players. Well, other than Heliod, I guess, but a lot of combo stuff in this set. In this set.
There's actually one other card that I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to mention this when we were going through our show notes.
Sure.
That legendary enchantment spider, Arasta of the Endless Web.
Yeah, right here. Yep.
Yeah, so 2 green for a 3/5 legendary common creature spider. So reach. When an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, get a 1/2 spider creature token with reach. And
Insane.
so this is one of those very punishing effects, almost like a Cabal.
Yeah, and Voice of Resurgence, very similar to that.
Right. So it's really, really hard for your for the control player to deal with this favorably.
Oh yeah, aside from like enchantment base removal or like bouncing it somehow with a Planeswalker, like you could obviously tuck it with Teferi, or Teferi 3, just bounce it. But yeah, this thing, again, the art's insane. I love the new borders that they have. Yeah, this card's going to be a headache though.
Yeah. Just the fact that like you can't deal with it favorably, and even the token it leaves behind. Every creature that we have ever played in the history of our deck has been an X1.
Yeah.
Most of them being 3/1 flyers.
Yeah.
So, or 2/1 creatures on the ground. So even the 1/2 spider creature token will trade with something that we have.
Yep. Yeah, it reminds me of Ishkana a little bit too. That card was brutal against control and standard. This card I think will do the same. So
Storm Herald too. Did we mention Storm Herald when we were going over this?
We did not. So if you want to read it.
All right. So this card has a lot of words on it.
It does.
It's a 2 and a red for a 3/2 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, return any number of auras from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to creatures you control. Exile those auras at the beginning of the next end step. If those auras would leave the battlefield, exile them instead of putting them anywhere else. So this is one of those cards that it comes in and then the trigger happens. Those auras do not need to target when they go on a thing. So if you have 2 creatures in play and you play this, you are able to instantly Voltron up one of the creatures on your board. Your opponent will need to deal with a creature if they need that one specifically gone for whatever reason before the thing resolves. And so you can then put, Spectral Ward, which is protection from all colors. That doesn't cause auras to fall off. One of the unblockable auras, something like Eldrazi Conscription or anything else that makes the thing big, dumb, and hard to deal with. And then you can attack in with this giant beater.
Eldrazi Conscript, get your Eldrazi Conscriptions now, because I don't know if that card spiked or not, but holy smokes, yeah.
I think it's like 10 or 15 now.
Oh my good God.
Because Storm Herald's a hasty 3-drop, in theory, you could, if we're really going like pie in the sky here, glimpse the unthinkable, target yourself, play Storm's Herald, and then swing in with whatever goodies.
Yep. Wow.
But there are better shells for that. Like it seems like there's a very high end on the combo spectrum for this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh my God, Eldrazi Conscription with this card, just not a fan.
11/10 with haste on turn 3. What? I don't get it.
Shatter the Sky is next. I'm just going to move on. Shatter the Sky. We finally have a 4-mana Wrath in Standard again. It only, 4 mana, one color. It is white. It's 2 white. Kaya's Wrath, obviously excellent. But this, you don't need to be playing black. You can just play good old-fashioned Azorius Propaganda and crush your opponent. It's a sorcery, obviously, for a rare. Each player who controls a creature with power 4 or greater draws a card. Definitely not nothing, right? That is a drawback for sure. Then you get to destroy all the creatures, though. So, I mean, I think this is going to see play. If there is a blue-white control deck, this is going to see play. It's going to have a home. Time Wipe, it has such good synergy with things like Gadwick and, Brazen Borrower. I think, obviously, that card you'll probably still play that card. But Shatter the Sky definitely and include. I don't think this sees, obviously, Pioneer. We have Supreme Verdict, which is just the best Wrath of all time. It's not going to see any play in Pioneer or Modern or anything. But definitely in Standard, I think this is definitely seeing play.
And just like, we still have Teferi for another half a year.
Yeah.
A little more than half a year. So being able to play Teferi, tick up, untap because Teferi's probably not dead. You do it again. And then you just wrath in your opponent's turn in combat. Yep.
And if you have him and Narset in play, they don't even draw the card. So.
Oh, true.
Yeah. I mean, this card is legit, I think. Obviously, the draw card is a downside. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah,
it's like just good against weenie decks, right? I don't know.
Like, in theory, you're still getting a 3-for-1, 3-for-2, whatever.
Yeah. And if you do this on turn 4 against like Rakdos Knights in Standard, they're not drawing a card because all their things are like 3 power or 2 power,
right?
Except for Regisaur, which of course is like gigantic.
Actually, speaking of 4-mana rats, though, we got another one in this set. Storm's Wrath in red. It's one line up. Mythic spoiler, which is basically Hour of Devastation, just -1 on everything. Deal 4 damage to each creature and Planeswalker.
Yep,
which is really good when the blue base control decks are playing 6 different blue 3 CMC Planeswalkers in the format.
Yep.
You can just clear out everything.
Yeah, I mean, it is to note though that we do tick Teferi up on turn 3 typically, but I mean, if they combine this with a creature, say they attack Teferi and then Wrath, I don't know. Very interesting card. Definitely reminiscent, obviously, of Hour of Devastation for sure. Moving on to Thrix. This card is sweet. The art's awesome. Big boy that makes all your things cost less. So Thrix, the Sudden Storm. Love the name. 3 for a blue legendary creature, elemental giant. It's rare. It's a 4/5. It has flash. It has flying. And spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or more, cost 1 less, and can't be countered. So I'm already thinking you can combine this with things like Fascist Intervention, get an extra card for cheaper, and they can't counter it. Like, sign me up for that. This card looks sweet. I think this definitely could see play in Standard. Probably not doing anything in Pioneer or Modern, but definitely a sweet card. The art is insane, too.
It is interesting that it works for like dig through time and things that you have made cheaper, even though the CMC is still high.
Yeah, I think maybe a sideboard card in Pioneer against the control matchup, like against the mirror. Yeah. It would probably be a long shot, though. There's so many good cards that fill that kind of role. I think Sphinx of the Final Word is probably just better, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this
being a 4/5
sweet.
Flash flyer is still like very good.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The body is insane.
Yeah, it's big, beefy boy. Moving on. So that's that. So next up we have Wave Break Hippocamp. Another blue card. We're going to talk about the blue cards, of course. Yeah. So if you want to read that one off.
Sure. Wave Break Hippocamp is 2 and a blue for a 2/2. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. It's also an enchantment creature, Horsefish. Not that that's important, but
of course, it's
important.
Yeah.
So this is essentially every single one of your counter spells is now also Cryptic Command.
Decent. It's almost like they printed Veil of Summer in blue.
Almost. But why would they ever do that?
Why would they ever do that?
Being able to replace your interaction is very, very strong. If you remember Rashmi, when that first came out, being able to just never lose card advantage or card equity, everything replacing itself is just strong. In Pioneer, you could even play it with Rashmi in some kind of very grindy Prophet of Krufix sort of shell here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll see a home.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
But
it seems interesting, at least.
Yeah. No, the card's definitely worth talking about.
Also, we also forgot to mention Nallid of Hidden Coves, which is 1 right under, which is 2 and a blue for a 2/3. Enchantment creature Nymph. When it's not your turn, your spells cost 1 less.
Decent. Yeah, turn your 3 mana counter spells into just counter spells. Sign me up.
Yeah.
I think those are the same counter spell.
Yeah, they're in that same like design space of I'm going to interact in your turn, not mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and having things that reward for it is great.
If it's not a Wrath or a Planeswalker, I don't want to cast spells on my turn. I'll just be honest.
And frankly, with most of my Planeswalkers, I don't really want to cast my Wraths on my turn either.
Exactly. Shout out to Fairy.
We forgot to mention that legendary giant. He makes Teferi cost effectively 1, right? Or effectively 2? So you pay 4 mana for 5 mana Teferi, and then you tick up. And so you buy back 2 of that mana. So you're not really tapping out anymore for your Teferi, even when he comes down at all. You're down 2 mana
with Thrix,
3 up.
Yeah. That's nuts. Okay, so next up we have another combo card. I'll let you talk about this because this was probably the card you were most hyped about when we were in the pre-show.
All right, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this podcast, but I hate this card and I love this card.
You get 1.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's like a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
So Underworld Breach is a 1 and a red for an enchantment. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to its mana cost plus exile 3 cards from your graveyard. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach.
Yep.
So this functions in a similar design space to something like Past in Flames and Yawgmoth's Will.
Yeah.
But unlike Past in Flames and Yawgmoth's Will, when you use a card and it goes to your graveyard later that turn, it doesn't exile itself or whatever, you can then cast it again. So if you have something if you have a, say, 0 mana artifact like Mox Opal, and Grinding Station.
Because that card never creates problems in Modern ever.
Right. You are able to net a bunch of mana while milling your entire deck. And then you can play something like Thassa's Oracle.
Interesting.
Which doesn't matter if it lives or dies when you have 0 cards in your deck, because the trigger will resolve.
Right.
So barring a Stifle effect, which then you can cast it again, you will win the game on the spot. So there are versions of this deck that are using an Urza Shell. Some of them are playing, Grape Shot as their win condition.
I'm a fan. Sign me up. I like Storm.
Which you don't need Storm Count 20. You need Storm Count like 6 or 7, and then you cast Grape Shot 3 different times from your graveyard, because 6 plus 7 plus 8 is still lethal. I believe.
I'm a fan. In Modern, absolutely. They're at like 15 or whatever.
I think that's still 20, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying you wouldn't need exactly 20, probably.
Yeah. So this card is incredibly unfair. And even if you're using it as a fair card in something like Legacy, Rug Delver,
you're not playing this as a fair card, though.
Like, you can play this as a Snapcaster Mage that gets back things that are not just instants and sorceries. You can get it to buy back True Name Nemesis, or Delver Secrets plus the same Ponder twice, or the same Bolt 3 times.
Yeah, that's insane.
Or buy back an Oko. Like, this card is not fair, and I don't know why this was printed at this rate.
It's sick.
Or at
For
all.
2 mana.
Why was this card printed? I don't get it.
Does this have a place in Storm? Like actual Grape Shot, good old fashioned Gift Storm?
I'm not sure, because they need a critical mass of spells, whereas this one wants a small number of especially good spells and ways of filling your graveyard.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think a different Storm deck could exist because of it. I just don't know what it looks like yet.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade.
This card's insane.
Yeah,
and
this card is
the same
hot.
disdain that people have for Oko. I expect them to have for this card in like 2 weeks.
Nice. 2 weeks time. You heard it here first on the Control Freak podcast. This card is the next Oko. 2020's version of Oko.
At least we're getting out of the way early.
Yeah, it's only January, exactly. Yeah. All right, so moving on from the most busted card to another pretty solid card. It's green, so we'll talk about it. Dryad of Isian Grove. I'm butchering that name, but so it is 2 and a green for an enchantment creature Nymph, rare, 2/4. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Card's good. Card is good. Card is very good. It is much like oh my goodness, I'm blanking. It's much like
Courser of Crewfix.
Courser of Crewfix. It's much like you can play extra lands on your turn. So, I mean, this card is going to be, I think, a mainstay.
Not only has like a Courser just shown that being a 2/4 is a very relevant body.
Yeah.
The fact that this is a Prismatic Omen means that it works with Scapeshift.
And you can actually play additional lands. So that's something that like Courser was always like awkward, because if you go like runner lands on top, you kind of just like brick off. But this, you can play both of them.
I don't think this lets you casting or play lands from the top of your deck, but even still, just being able to
that's true.
Yeah, you get to take your Explore effect and your Prismatic Omen effect, both of which that the Titan Shift decks were playing, having them be on a singular card with a hard to kill body. It's really, really good. Scapeshift and what is that? The 3 and a black. When a swamp comes in, you get to drain 2 from your opponent or a creature.
I don't even know that card.
It's from like M19, I think. Point being that there's a Scapeshift combo shell that's available in Pioneer that I think this card helps to enable.
Oh, good God. No.
And then you have the better Valakut version of the deck for Modern.
Right.
I don't know if the Pioneer version would be worth playing, but I think that this is a very, very strong card for that kind of archetype.
Yeah, it's very much like Azusa too, getting to play extra lands. Obviously, you don't get to play 2, but an extra land is definitely not nothing. So
And a
there's
2/4 body just it's so hard to kill. It's a 3 mana 2/4 body.
absolutely. Yeah. Pushed. Hashtag pushed. Moving on, we have we're gonna go to like the demigods now. We're only gonna talk about a couple of them, but the first one we want to talk about is Tymaret, Chosen from Death. So black for a legendary enchantment creature demigod. It's an uncommon. It is a 2-star. So Tymaret's toughness is equal to your devotion to black, so it'll always be at least 2. Well, he's on the battlefield at least. So colorless and a black, exile up to 2 cards from graveyards. You gain 1 life for each creature exiled this way. So you kind of explained this in the pre-show that this is basically black's version of Scavenging Ooze, which, why did they need that? Sure.
Like, Withered Wretch already exists for Modern, which was a 2/2 that cost black, but it didn't really gain you life or do anything other than just act as like graveyard hate. This being able to be just a very chunky boy with the toughness aspect being boosted, while also acting as graveyard hate, means that he can threaten things on board.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is pretty
or not
sick.
On board, block on board, or attack in.
It's uncommon too, which is like seems pushed uncommon. I guess it's legendary, so that is a potential downside. But so moving on to Annex Hardened in the Forge. It's 1 colorless red for legendary enchantment creature, demigod, uncommon, star 3. So this time the power is affected. Annex's power is equal to your devotion to red. Whenever Annex or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 red satyr creature token with this creature can't block. If the creature had power 4 or greater, creature create 2 of those tokens instead. Jesus Christ. These cards have so much text on them these days. Whew.
So this is basically like a red card for an aristocrat shell, while also just being a potentially very, very big attacking creature that you get value out of when he dies. So let's say you have 4 devotion. This is a 4/3. When he dies, you get 2 1/1s out of the deal. That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
The ability also extends to any other creature you have.
Yeah.
So with some kind of like Blood Earth effect and a sack outlet, you can just start chipping away at your opponent with like repeated value. Other things that leave a body behind when it dies is also very helpful for continuing that kind of engine.
Yeah, and there's kind of that shell in Standard already, and I think that this is definitely going to help project it. I don't know if it's going to be good enough, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on and talking about. Moving on down the line, we kind of skip over a lot of this stuff here, but we do have Banishing Lights. So this is a reprint, obviously, but good old-fashioned, basically Oblivion Ring. It's a fixed Oblivion Ring where you can't do any game-breaking shenanigans. I think this card is excellent for Standard. Obviously, I just wanted to point it out because it is a huge reprint. The art is beautiful. I'm glad they picked the promo art and not the original art, which I was not a fan of. But shout out to Wizards for giving us Oblivion Ring, just actual factual Oblivion Ring.
Yeah,
it's necessary. We're at the point where Planeswalkers are so dang powerful these days, and with the gods being here, I think they realized we have to have just a catch-all. Like, give white something. Like,
I would have appreciated Journey to Nowhere with fixed text, but that's me.
I mean,
in addition to Banishing Light, like, please give me efficient answers to Planeswalkers.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Also to creatures.
Yes. So, and then we have Enchantmatize, or whatever they called it in Mystery Booster, but 1 with the stars, 3 and a blue for an enchantment, aura, uncommon, enchant creature or enchantment. Enchanted permanent is an enchantment and loses all other types. So Gavin Verhey's meme of a card from Mystery Booster is realized in this. So much for those cards just being a complete joke. Wizards got us again. They told us, no, none of those cards are actually real. Well, At least one of them was.
So how long until we get Sliv Mizzet and Black Border?
Which one was that?
Niv Mizzet, but for slivers.
Oh my god, please no. I want wasteland. Waste space land. Wasteland, any land, and then they create a wastes. I think that card would be excellent and very fair and playable. And also, screw Tron.
Can we just... It's not even important anymore, but like, can we ban Tron just on like
Oh,
principle's sake?
as soon as Oko's gone, like Tron's just boop, 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 back atop. And I think at Austin, it's like one of the most played. So we're obviously recording this on a Saturday. Actually, I usually record on Sunday, but when you're listening to this, it'll be Monday morning. The banning will happen. Hopefully, please, Wizards of the Coast, ban Oko. But yeah, Austin. GP Austin, Magic Fest Austin, Tron and Eldrazi Tron are the two top decks in Modern at that tournament. So
it's
only like a
surprising,
10-person GP, so those numbers are skewed, but like whatever.
Actually, SolitaryPro member Mickey Humphreys just made day 2.
Yeah,
and we're
shout
really,
out.
Yeah, we're looking forward to tomorrow. And,
oh yeah,
see him on that leaderboard.
Absolutely. So then next up we have Drag to the Underworld. This card is
Drag me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So it's 2 black for an instant uncommon. It's instant. This is beautiful. This spell costs X less, where X is your devotion to black, and simply put, destroy target creature. I'm a fan.
Unconditional removal. That it's fairly easy to make this cost 2 mana. Feels really, really good. I think that having that printed in the set where escape is a thing is probably on purpose. Like, things coming back means that this is probably not going to see as much play as it would or should in other formats.
Right.
Though I like the idea of it for like Modern has all these like fun casual decks like mono black or like black green zombies. So this is a fun, fair equivalent to like Victim of Night.
Yeah.
I'm also expecting mono black aggro and Pioneer to play this.
Oh yeah, this card's sweet, and I mean 2 mana, like 2 mana better Doomblade. Sign me up. Up. Then moving on, we got Gary, Gray Merchant of Asphodel. Of course, I'll just read it off. 3 mana, or 3 colorless, black for a creature zombie, uncommon, 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost. I mean, this was insane in Standard the last time around. Granted, we had Thoughtseize. We don't this time around, thankfully. I mean, I think any mono black devotion deck, if any deck like that exists in Standard, this deck is definitely going to see. This card is definitely going to see play. Love the art upgrade. I never was a fan of the original. The art here is much more sophisticated and realistic. Love it. I hated this card the first time around, but maybe I've been playing Rakdos Knights on Arena, and I feel terrible, but the deck just smashes face and doesn't really care about anything.
Fun fact about me. So Theros was the first Standard that I actually played.
Oh, nice.
And because of the awful human being I am, I played a Turbo Fog Mazes End deck.
Oh my good God, I hated that deck. You're terrible.
Right? And so the only thing my deck ever like consistently lost to was Burn and Mono Black, because I couldn't deal with the life drain as opposed to damage, which I could fog for days.
Yeah. Gary gonna get you. Love it.
Real quick, because we didn't put this on our list either. Mystic Repeal for a green or a single green mana instant, put an enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. So this is basically like a half. What is it? God, I'm blanking on the name of the Unravel the Aether. There we go. It's like half Unravel the Aether that's able to tuck a god and get rid of it for good.
Yeah.
Not that it's super important, because Unravel the Aether is Pioneer legal, but this is a efficient answer to the gods in Standard that I expect to see a lot of play.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that this card is good and worth talking about and worth mentioning. If you're not playing blue, you should probably be playing this card because you don't have access to the other one. So moving on, we got another blue card. Go figure. Whirlwind Denial. This is one that has been really, I mean, it's been getting talked about a lot. So 2 and a blue for an instant uncommon. For each spell and ability your opponents control, counter it unless its controller pays 4. Spell and ability. Not even or, it's and ability. Oh my god, this card's insane. So yeah, you can counter storm triggers. It's of note. Conversely, Storm could just play this and counter all of your potential counter spells. Like if you have,
it also hits Scape Shift and Valka triggers. Like it.
Yeah, it's just solid.
This might make Convolute playable. Like this might actually end up making Convolute a playable sideboard card.
That's hot. I'm a fan. But yeah, I mean, nice weather this storm. Like, which of course, if you play Storm, if you've ever played Storm, that card is just like, are you serious? Why is this a card? Yeah. So moving on.
What we have next?
Pyrrhica's Libation. I know you wanted to talk about that.
Oh yeah, it's not that the card's like especially good or anything, but it is a 3-mana edict that can also edict their enchantment, which is the second time black has had this effect and the first time in a standard legal set.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we now have access to that that area of the color pie, and I just wanted to bring attention to it.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely think like that's huge, right? Like black has never had that before, really. I mean, I assume most people listening to this podcast haven't been playing that long. Where, what was it, Oubliette, right?
No, that was
because that just hit
an
anything.
O-ring variant. Yeah, no, Oubliette was just a Journey to Nowhere, I think. They printed a 2-mana edict that hit a creature or enchantment. Creature or enchantment in the most recent Commander set.
Oh, I thought O-ring was. I thought Oubliette was just O-ring.
I thought it was a creature, and then they keep all the R's that are attached to it.
Okay. Either way.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
yeah. So Glimpse of Freedom is next. This card, it's being touted as like the bad Think Twice, but Glimpse of Freedom, colorless and blue for an instant uncommon. Draw card, escape for 2 and a blue. Exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. Yes, it is kind of a bad Think Twice, but you can do it multiple times. So I definitely think it's worth checking out for standard decks.
It's bad until you think the third time.
Yeah, right. Moving on down the line, we have Stern Dismissal. So this is instant for a single blue, common. Return target creature or enchantment an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So obviously similar to Unsummon, but obviously not being able to hit your own stuff is a huge downside. But it hits enchantments too. Could see play. Another one is Thirst for Meaning. So this is much in the same vein of Thirst for Knowledge, except you could discard an enchantment. So 2 and a blue for an instant common. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an enchantment. Could see some play. Yeah. I'm a little.
It's definitely worse than Thirst for Knowledge.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Just because of the amount of playable artifacts and cheaper artifacts. But at the same time, it's nice that they're continuing that. Like, I don't want to call it a cycle because there's the one for the lands that has a sorcery. I blank on the name. But it's nice to see them kind of branching out that same effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan. Moving on to the other planeswalkers, we have
the good ones.
Yes. Well, I mean
the good
Elspeth.
one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Ashiok. Dig in, because this one is a heater, my friends. This one is definitely. I don't know what your thoughts are currently, but if you don't think this card is the hotness, I'm I think you're wrong.
So at Ashiok Nightmare Muse.
Yeah, go for it. Dig in.
It's 3 blue-black. Comes in on 5 loyalty. They make a 2/3 blue and black nightmare creature token. Whenever this creature
protects itself. First off, just want to say that.
Right. With a 2/3, which is an absurdly relevant kind of body for this effect. Compared to mostly 2/2s that are being made in that kind of design space.
Yeah.
1/1 or 2/2. This eats it. And the ability stapled onto those nightmare creatures is when it attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library.
Solid.
Right. It's a minimal kind of effect, but it feeds into the ult, which is easily attainable because you come in on 5 and it takes up to 6.
7. Yeah, ult. Yeah.
-3, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, then that player exiles a card from their hand. I'm blanking on the name of the 3 mana card in blue and black that does this recoil, where it's just a discard.
Yeah.
But
either way, it's solid. It
is removal.
It's a way to deal with planeswalkers too. Oh my goodness. Right. If you ever get them to a position where they don't have any cards in their hand and you bounce their planeswalker, this just kills the planeswalker effectively.
Whatever the threat is, you are able to remove it and generate card advantage. And then -7, you can cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponents control. Your opponents own from exile without paying their mana cost. So
hot.
Right. The nightmare tokens not only protect you and protect Ashiok, but they're able to feed this ultimate, which you are very easily going to attain.
Yeah.
This card's insane.
Yeah, no, this card's very good. I played with it in the arena preview event where they gave you 2. It was crazy because they were 2 like pre-constructed decks. You had like the Espeth deck and the Ashiok deck. The Ashiok deck was busted.
Which one had Black Lotus in it?
Both of them had Black Lotus.
Okay.
But you had the Moxes in the blue-black one. So.
Oh God, why?
Yeah, right. Well, besides that, so in that event though, I got to play this on turn 1, and I just laughed at my opponent. I was like, "Here we go." They didn't like me.
You have 2, 4, 6 power on board.
Yeah, and just a planeswalker on turn 1. That no, this card's very good. I think this is going to give a boost to Esper control in Pioneer, which is something that hasn't really been a thing. I know I tried it a little bit. I'm still trying it in Pioneer in my free time and stuff, and I think it's it might be the answer. I don't want to say it is, but it might be. Yeah.
Like this is easily one of the strongest 5 mana planeswalkers with this like
for sure
array of abilities. Yeah, like,
and I mean
we make fun of the whole like everything's Obnix list, the +1 to draw a card.
This is the best Obnix list they've ever printed.
Yeah, like this is easily one of the strongest in that like formula.
Yeah,
arguably up there with Teferi.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because Teferi's so good, but like this actually protects itself on the way up, right?
Yeah,
that's huge. It protects your other planeswalkers too on the way up. It actually creates a board presence.
Yeah,
apart from itself. So let's
and like they kept off of that, like starting with I think after Elspeth Knight Errant, they're just like, you know what, under 6 mana they can't really protect themselves on a plus.
Yeah,
and they threw that.
And here we do. Out. Here we have it. Yes, I'm a fan.
All right, sorry. Move on.
No. I think this card is excellent. I definitely want to be testing it in Pioneer. But yeah, we got to move on. What is it? Calyx Destiny's Hand. So this is another planeswalker. This is a green-white planeswalker. So for 2 colorless and a green-white, legendary planeswalker Calyx, obviously Mythic, for loyalty. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an enchantment card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. That's a +1. -3, exile target creature or enchantment you don't control until target enchantment you control leaves the battlefield. So a pseudo Oblivion Ring. And then -7, return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. What do you think about Calyx?
They wrote a bit about Calyx in a recent article. basically saying, look, we had the option to print this card without one of the abilities that we had planned to put on it, or not print it at all.
Yeah.
And that's really disappointing because this is a really cool looking character.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in learning the backstory behind it. Apparently it was like designed by Clothis to chase down Elspeth.
Yeah, he's a hunter. That's his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And send her back to the underworld. And because he needed to chase Elspeth to the ends of the earth, he became a planeswalker to meet that goal.
Nice.
And that's a really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really cool like backstory because he is an artificial being.
Right.
And I'm guessing the stack ability that they talked about was like Constellation. If an enchantment enters, put a loyalty on him.
Yeah,
which would explain why. Sense. Yeah, which would explain why there's such a steep minus on a 4-drop with 4 loyalty that takes up by 1.
Yeah, that is interesting. You'd think if they changed that, they would have tweaked the numbers of the middle ability, maybe -2.
Right. Like in theory, if it were that ability, it would be like it comes in on 4, he takes up to 5. The following turn, you play 2 auras, which is or 2 enchantments, and then you ult him, which is a reasonable line of play for a 4-mana mythic.
Yeah.
And it's really disappointing that this card, it might still see play, but it's nowhere near the power level that it probably would have been.
Yeah, it's just not there for me as printed. The card we got, I don't see it happening really. We did want to talk about it though because it does have a really sweet like design backstory. So
yeah.
Moving on.
I'm looking forward to the character coming back with a better card.
Yeah,
the full like Tipple treatment. Like, look, we get it. You love the character. The card sucks. Let's do it again, but do it right.
Right. Exactly. So moving on, we have another god, Klothos, God of Destiny, or as it's known, the fixed Deathrite Shaman, basically. So for 1 red-green, a 4/5 legendary enchantment creature god mythic, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Klothos isn't a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from your graveyard. If it was a land, add red or green. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Klothos deals 2 damage to each opponent. I think this card is pretty darn playable in standard. Could see playing like a strange the green red chonky stompy deck, aggro deck or whatever might want this. I doubt it though, but definitely playable in standard.
I don't know if it's better than like War Domri for the green red aggro style deck.
I highly doubt it.
But for some kind of like teamer, I'm gonna hide behind my a board that's hard to deal with,
right? And
just slowly drain you. Like if this were a blue-red splashing green or a blue-green splashing red sort of deck,
right?
This is a very real way to accelerate out your other planeswalkers and your other threats, while also presenting a possible to deal with clock on your opponent.
Absolutely, yeah. Not too much else to say about that. Moving on, we have some new Titans. Holy smokes, Wizard!
So good.
Yeah, go ahead.
So good.
Go for it.
Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, is
such a dope
6/6. Oh yeah, a 6/6 for black and red. He is a legendary creature, Elder Giant Mythic. When he enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card, and then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card loses 3 life.
Yeah,
and then you can escape for black, red, and then 5 cards. So this card is nutty.
Yeah.
I like the design of them.
Oh, I love the design. I hope they do the rest of the cycle.
Yeah.
Because we only got 2 Titans.
Correct.
But
it
basically has they basically have like a Evoke, and then they come back later. So
you cast them almost like instants or sorceries, and the CMC is lower than it should be for this kind of effect.
Right.
It has the giant text from the the M12 cycle or M11 cycle.
M11, yep.
Like Sun Titan, Grave Titan, where it enters or attacks. With Kroxa in particular, because it's CMC 2, you can also play with Claim to Fame.
Hot.
So once you have your first one, you can essentially reanimate it for 1 mana and get that effect again. And typically, when you're playing in these grindy matchups, you sandbag an extra land or something, like a card you don't really need or want. So that way, when they make you discard a card with like, all right, in your draw step, here's a K command, you can discard a bad card instead of like something that you might want to play that turn.
Yeah.
This punishes you for sandbagging a land instead of an actual playable card.
Yeah.
And that's really strong. And the fact that it's stable to a 6/6 is really,
insane.
really good.
Yeah.
Even
Literally
on 4
Titans.
mana.
And they're in the name too. Like, I'm so hyped. I wish we would have got a blue-white one, maybe, but we didn't. So yeah, that one's insane.
Yeah.
Obviously, that one's the one I think's like just nutty. But moving on,
I think that this might make like a Mardu Pyro deck again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's sweet. I think it is probably the better of the two, but who knows?
I'm not sure about that one, to be honest with you. Pyro's really good.
So yeah, you want to read this one off too?
Sure. So 1 green-blue for another 6/6. It has the same, when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped.
Yep.
And the enter the battlefield or attacks text is you gain 3 life, draw a card, and you can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Escape for green, green, blue, blue.
Yeah.
So this card is gain 3 life and growth spiral.
Not bad. Not bad.
It's so no matter what,
it's very
itself.
good. I'm just jaded a lot by all the awesome blue-green cards that have come out in 2019 that I don't want to admit that this card is better.
Like the fact that this is going in the same standard format as growth spiral already.
Yeah.
Is it growth spiral was right? Yeah.
No, it'll be nothing rotates when this set comes out.
Perfect. So
like what were Oko plus like what in the world, like if they would have never banned Oko, like what in the world are we thinking here? Like all these excellent green and blue cards, like
even Hydroid Crisis in here is great.
Yeah. Oh my god. So
yeah, it's really, really good. The fact that it replaces itself and then you can keep casting it from the graveyard. The thing that we were talking about with that other card that's like, well, if we keep casting it, it's better than Think Twice. No, this is better than Think Twice.
Yeah, right?
This is a 4 mana, like 4 mana Think Twice, sure, from the graveyard. But it comes with a 6/6 that gains gains 3 life, draws a card, and then ramps.
Yeah. Yeah, thinking about it that way, zero chance we play the other card, right? Zero chance we play Glimpse of Freedom in a format that this is legal.
This card's insane. And the fact that Escape does that thing we talked about with Espeth where it keeps coming back, and unless you exile it, it will keep coming back.
Yep. So we got to move on, though. Moving on to Polukranos Unchained. Let's go.
How many card alters of Django do you think they're going to do with this?
Oh, my God. So 2 black-green for a 0/0 legendary creature zombie Hydra. Yeah, 0/0 in quotes. For a Mythic, of course. Polukranos enters the battlefield with 6 +1/+1 counters. It escapes with 12 +1/+1 counters if it escaped instead. If damage would be dealt to Polukranos while it has +1/+1 counters on it, prevent the damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters. Oh, but wait, there's more. 1 black-green. Polukranos fights another target creature, and it escapes for 4 black-green, and you exile 6 other cards. Holy smokes, he is back, and he is off the chain. This card's hot.
Really good.
Yeah, this card's extremely good.
Like the obvious part of being like, okay, well, we can fight off all of our opponent's creatures and then cast it again from the graveyard. Like other than that, like it technically has like protection from Death Touch because you prevent the damage. So
oh my god,
you don't really care about Death Touch in your damage calculations here.
Yeah, no, this card's very good. I expect it to see a bunch of play in Standard. Could break through to Pioneer.
Remember like Phantom Nishoba and like that entire cycle where you're like, wait, this is a 5-drop that has 7 power? I don't understand. What if we made it a 12/12?
I mean, the power creep is very real. So moving on, we have Brown's Hide Lion. I do not like this card. I'm not going to have fun playing against this. So very simple. Green-white for a 3/3 creature cat rare. And then you can tap green and a white. It gains indestructible. But wait, there's more, because of course we're in 2020. All cards have all text. When Bronze-Hide Lion dies, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchanted creature has tap green-white, and it gains indestructibility and loses all other abilities. Are you joking me?
So like this is like a reverse bestow.
Yeah, pretty much.
It dies as a creature and becomes an aura.
Yep.
So like an indestructible 3/3 for 2 is already extremely good.
Yeah. Above the curve.
I'm surprised they made another Nemean Lion card after we got Fleecemane Lion.
Yeah.
Which was
very
already
reminiscent.
which is basically the same card.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see the evolution of Watchwolf, which was insane for its time to Call of the Conclave, and then almost immediately after Fleecemane Lion, and
this
then
is
this.
Watchwolf 4.0.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, how many times can we make a 3/3 for green-white with extreme upside
Apparently
and not
a
get
lot.
like hyped about it? Yeah.
But moving on, we have a Dream Trawler, Prognostic Sphinx of its day, pretty much. So 2 white, blue. That is 6 mana, but it's a creature Sphinx for a rare 3/5. Flying lifelink. Whenever you draw a card, Dream Trawler gets +1/0 until end of turn. Whenever Dream Trawler attacks, draw a card. So off the rip, when it's attacking, you get to make it a 4/5. And you get to discard a card. Dream Trawler gains hexproof, tap it until the end of turn. I don't know if this is going to make it. I'm very skeptical just because I got burned on Prognostic Sphinx. I was like 25 or so deep in that card, and then they printed, I forget what it was, Pearl Lake Ancient or something. It was and then that's like just the control finisher. So I got burned. I mean, I wasn't out much money because that card was like a nickel or whatever, but
Fair.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to make it. What do you think?
I think this is very, very, very good for limited. I don't know if it's a constructed finisher. Having built-in protection didn't stop Chromium from existing. I don't think it's good enough for constructed. I think it's very strong.
I think it's close, but I don't think it will be.
Whenever you draw a card, it gets bigger, and whenever it attacks, you draw a card. I think that it seems similar to Ojutai, but also a little bit worse.
Yeah, definitely not Ojutai. don't let don't let Logan hear you say that.
It's similar but worse.
So moving on to the artifacts, we have Shadow Spear, 1 mana, legendary artifact, equipment, rare. This is basically the weapon that Espeth is wielding, that has some Phyrexian goo on it. I'm super hyped to it. Don't know what that means, but story implications.
The story behind Shadow Spear is actually really, really cool. So in the underworld, Espeth had to relive her death over and over and over again. And so in one of those sequences, she actually steals Heliod's spear that is about to go through her, and that becomes her new weapon.
Nice.
So Shadow Spear is like the reverse world, upside down version of Heliod's spear.
Nice. That's so dope.
But the cool part about it is the activated ability.
Yeah.
So remember how we said we were going to talk about that Lotus Field Storm deck?
Yep, and here we go.
Lotus Field is a permanent.
It happens. It does happen. I can confirm, yes, I'm getting in my ear, it is a permanent.
And permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So you can finally interact with the
You can just play this on turn 1 and be like, what you got? Feel to ruin it.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Literally, yes.
So
it's not good, but you can finally interact with the Lotus Field in this format.
Moving on, we have Soul Guide Lantern, 1 mana for an artifact uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. You can tap it to sacrifice it, exile each opponent's graveyard. Pretty hot. It says each opponent, so it's very good in Commander. Tap a colorless, tap it, and you can sack it to just draw a card if it's not necessary, or you draw it late game, or you draw it in multiples. I think this card's very good.
So, if you don't care about your own graveyard, I think it's worse than Relic.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are in black, it's worse than Nile Spellbomb. But otherwise, I think it's a fine card.
I think it's a fine card, yeah. Obviously, these lands, these basics are insane looking. I want all the foils. They're bringing back the other half of the temples. Temple Enlightenment, Temple Deceit. Of course, these are the Scry Temple, Temple Scries, Temple of Malice, Temple of Abandon, and Temple of Plenty. Of course, we're very excited to see Temple of Enlightenment. And these arts are insane. I love them. Big fan.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely got upgraded from the last time we saw them. And the last card we're going to talk about, other than Field Ruin, it got a reprint. Very happy to see it back in Standard, of course.
We actually missed two gold ones that I wanted to talk about. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what?
I'm sorry. The Achilles one, the Haktos, the Unscarred.
All right, go for it.
Red, white for a 6/1. Attacks each turn of Fable. When it enters the battlefield, or as it enters the battlefield, choose 2, 3, or 4 at random.
Oh yeah.
It has protection from everything that's not that.
Yeah. And that's just everything that's not that. That counts for 1 to 2, and then 4 to Emrakul.
Yeah. So, when I first read it, I thought it was like pick 2, 3, 4, one of those. You'll have protection from the other 2. No, this always has protection from Bolt, from Path, from any 5-drop.
Pretty nuts.
The window of things that your opponent can use to deal with this is so narrow.
Very.
This card can just end games quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, protection from Death Shadow,
which is real good.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking it. What was the other one?
The last one is Staggering Insight, which is a white and a blue. For enchanted creature gets it's an aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 lifelink, and when the creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yep.
So it's Curious Obsession, except there's no must attack rider to it, and
it is 2 mana, which is obviously a downside. You can't hold up Spell Pierce. I know that's something that a lot of people were saying. I think the card's good though. I definitely think it'll see play.
I think that it would require you to not play the Djinn and instead work into a white, significant white splash.
Yeah.
But that gives you Healer's Hawk and other good playable 1-drops and sideboard answers. You can play Teferi.
Right.
There are upsides to being able to play white in that deck that you were not doing as a concession to be able to play the Djinn.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely agree. The last card. Now it's the last
very
card.
last one. I promise.
Very last card we're talking about tonight. Labyrinth of Scophos. Hopefully land for a rare land. You can tap it to add generic, or you tap 4 and it remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. Maze of Ith is back.
Yeah. So
Very
Mystifying Maze already existed in Modern, and I think it also cost 4 to do it. You also have New Prov whatever from original Ravnica.
Yeah.
But that one's extremely expensive to activate. And while 4 is still a lot, the issue with Mystifying Maze was that it exiled the creature and returned it to play.
So anytime they had ETB, which, by the way, every card in 2020 has an ETB. Every creature just has an ETB. This actually just removes it from combat, basically. And it doesn't actually exile it. So very important.
And since there's a large number of things that have haste in Pioneer that people are playing, like Questing Beast, being able to, in theory, wrath the board and not have to worry too much about repercussion or dealing with one thing and being able to fog another.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Absolutely. No, I think this card is it is.
I think Blue White plays it. I think you play it as a 1 to 2 of
in Pioneer.
And you're and you're happy with it.
Yeah. I definitely think you have to figure out what your meta is, right? Because if you're playing a mono green ramp heavy meta, Field of Ruin is still, you have to play that card. But yeah, I definitely like it. So
this set's great.
No, yeah, it's super dope. They've ram jammed all the sweet stuff that I loved from Theros and then kept out all the crap from the other 2 sets of the original Theros out of this set. So thank you, Wizards of the Coast.
Brimaz and Terranos, who needs those?
I am actually going to be allowed to play the cards early. I'm one of the preview content creators. Shout out to Wizards of the Coast for selecting me to get to do that. I'm super hyped. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. The 15th and 16th of January. Check out my stream over on Twitch at Les Alex over there. Where can people find you on the internet, Adam?
You can find me at Adam E. Cohen on Twitter. Also, if you want to say hi to me in person, I'll be at GP New Jersey, January 24th to 26th. And SCG Philly, I think that's February 8th?
Yeah, it's I know it's before. Yeah, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
we can fact check that later.
Point being, I'll be at both.
Yeah, right.
Cool. Come say hi, and yeah, we'll chat.
Excellent. Cool. And again, you do write for cardknocklife.com, so you have.
I do.
I will link your most recent article in the show notes below.
Perfect.
If you're on, absolutely. If you're on Podbean or if you're listening to this, make sure to follow the podcast and give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts because that really helps. 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5. Anything else, just, again, at me on Twitter, which you should follow me on Twitter at Les Alex. I
hate this podcast.
Right, this is garbage. Azorius propaganda is nonsense. Burn all day. I'm streaming every single day this month. So this is January, obviously. So check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/LesAlex. All that good stuff will be in the show notes. Shout out to SolitaryPro for sponsoring the podcast. Thank you. I appreciate all the love that they throw me and you guys throw me. Additionally, Patreon. Patreon's the last thing I want to talk about. If you dig my content and you find value in it, head on over to patreon.com/LesAlex. Consider becoming a patron. I have a lot of awesome perks for everyone. It's not just like, hey, give me money. There are perks. Everyone who signs up gets 5 free stickers that I ship out once a month. So check that out. And we just got the most recent goal, too, so tokens will be made soon. I'm waiting on the artist that I had commissioned to finish them. I'm sure she will be quick. She actually designed this logo, the podcast logo. Oh, I have merch. Holy smokes, forgot. Go check that out. I'll put all that stuff in the show notes below. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Do you have any final parting words, Adam?
This was a blast, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. We have Adam on every single set. We did the last 2, I think, together.
I think so.
Anyway, it's been crazy. Episode 33 in the books. Thank you much, everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that like button. Appreciate it. Other than that, everyone, thank you for watching or listening. And as always, Magic players, be kind to one another. Have a great night.